exit to port. It is currently the 28th of November, 1948 Central European Time. And not to make any sort of premonition, but I'm personally hoping that we can go for a bit of a shorter one today, and I'm not talking about my co-host.
Hey,
how you doing, Grumbles?
I'm doing good, thank you. Greetings, everyone.
We're starting off strong with a good segue there.
Mm-hmm.
I
like it. Yeah.
We're getting better at these. Anyway, the reason why I say this is because I am troubled with a bit of a sore throat, bit swollen throat. Not sure if it's the tonsils or if it's the other lymph nodes in there, but yeah, something's hurting, and then there's the whole thing of my left ear, for those of you who know about that. Rustling, fussling, old man Grumbles at podcast or something. Welcome in to the November edition of Exit to Port, everybody. We just had our editorial meeting. Hey. And we have landed on a few topics for some of you. For those of you who see the screen, you'll also see our wonderful waveform. For those of you who see the notes on, you know what? I popped my Spotify and I checked. They actually do pop up there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's for those of you on Spotify, you can actually look at the notes there somewhere. I think it's different for what app you use, but it's in there at least. So have a look. And I guess we're just gonna jump straight into it with
dive.
Topical. I see what you did there. with our first topic at hand, which is usually World of Warships, and no different today. We're starting out with World of Warships. No sub talk today. Nothing planned, at least.
Nope.
I think we've thoroughly whipped that dead horse of subs. But yeah, we're gonna start out with something that I think it went live very shortly after our last episode went live, and it's the Battle Pass. And the question is it Battle Ass or is it Battle Pass me more, please? What's your take on it?
I find it quite positive. As everybody knows, I'm very much TLDR and everything. I don't pay attention to all the detail. I let it wash over me so that I don't get overwhelmed. But I've had a flick through, and I have found it to be just a nice little accompaniment to, as I'm marching through. I feel like I'm not so much achieving things, but just getting stuff for playing the game. I feel like it feels like quite a lot, but not in an overwhelming, rather in a, oh, that's nice, I got a thing. I've only been trundling along the free pass. No particular reason, just, I don't play that much ships, so it's enough. And I wanted to sort of see it for, see what the free to play sort of thing gives you. And it just feels kind of comfortable. Bit of steel, bit of coal, bit of coin here and there, and all the other little boxes and signals, and feel like it's helped me to not run out of some stuff. It just feels kind of comfortable and not really in your face either. So far, I don't know. Maybe I'm not focused on it enough, but it doesn't really. The good thing is it doesn't really feel like it gets in my face either. So I think it's a positive. It's all the optional content or just content free for those playing along. So I haven't got anything negative to say about it. And overall, it feels positive. It's the animations and the screens and everything are really nice and clean, crisp, pretty well laid out. I suppose the only absolute minor thing is that you see this bar going across the screen, and the way my brain works, I'm looking at it going, oh wow, I've nearly done it. But of course it's just that segment that is showing you, so you scroll a little bit across the right and you're like, oh. So it's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, there's loads more to go to the end, but it's also the feeling of like, oh, there's still quite a lot of stuff going along. So
Yeah.
I haven't gotten, I don't have that grind mentality, so I don't see anything negative. I am certain that there's some players out there that will be like, oh, but it's such a grind and you want to get to the next level. I don't focus on it that much. If you don't focus on it, it won't feel so much like a grind, but each will take it how they will, right now. How about you?
Something I've noticed with it is that like these have replaced the daily missions that we used to get. And I am suddenly more aware of just how much stuff I actually get from it. From just playing a little bit there, a little bit here, and I'm more aware of kind of seeing like, okay, so if I now maybe play one more game, I'll get this set of bonuses. Okay, cool. And it's in that way, I really enjoy it. I really also enjoy the fact that it gives me a little shiny button that says, "Oh, you have stuff to collect," which again helps reinforce the idea that you are getting something just for playing. Like, you don't have to invest a lot of time. You don't have to jump on that grind, by just playing normally and getting base XP. Like, it's not like you need to farm X amount of fires on a Tuesday under a full moon. No, it's just base XP. It starts out with base XP, and then it starts out with base XP from wins. And it's all cumulative. Like, it's not like you need 2,000 base XP in one game. No. You can actually just go on a co-op spree and let that gather up 2,000 base XP, and that will count. And I think that's very nice. Honestly, I think they've done a great job at it. And the bonuses in it, both the free ones and the ones you get for paying for the battle pass, are very nice. So, like, for instance, with this one, when you get to level 50, you got Tokachi, I think it was, the new Japanese light cruiser premium, and some Black Friday crates. Like, that was at level 50, but plenty of economic bonuses before that, and just so many things. So, Wargaming, kudos on this. Like, this is honestly a good thing. Keep them going like this, because, like, if they ramp it up, I think that's going to be too much. If they relax it a bit more, I don't think that could be an issue. But I do believe it's in a good place right now.
I did quite particularly like that they included the some steel in there as well, and it kind of like goes up as you go along. That's quite nice, looking at like 500 there, 400, and so on and so forth. That's quite a significant chunk. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's probably some stuff that we were getting before, but it like you said, it didn't feel obvious what you were getting.
Yeah, exactly. Because
and here you can go back and review it easily.
I think you were getting like, if you played so and so much, you got 20 steel that week, and then that week. And here, instead, they've kind of gathered it up to one nice chunk. But I do believe it's actually a tiny bit more steel now than what it used to be.
Right. Okay.
So yeah. Wargaming, keep on going like this. This is good. Honestly, very good. And yeah, as long as they kind of keep up the communication on how to implement these things and so on, like we've already mentioned, I'm happy. Like there was some, of course, when the test of this, and there were still test values on how to purchase the different pass levels.
But that's
and
the
so
same
on.
with like every game.
Yeah.
I've seen that now more and more in all sorts of areas. People have a test server in it, and people start going bananas about, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. And I used to think that was more of a, well, that's a Warships kind of like mentality or whatever, but I've seen it more in a few others like Conan and a couple of others recently where people just go bananas, and it's like, well, they're just testing stuff. Why would you assume? I mean, it's fair enough having an opinion or whatever and maybe calling things out, but sometimes I think it's people going with the old clickbait, so they make a YouTube video about, oh, look at this, and make a big fuss. And it's like, but then they at the end or whatever they go, of course this is all test client stuff, so it could all be subject to change. It's like, well, why did you do the big, I can't believe they've done this? And so you click on it, and then you're like, oh, on the test server, right? Okay.
Because it's not as much fun to kind of go, of course you can pay to advance the battle pass, but we don't know how much it'll cost because this is the test server.
Yeah, nice and calm, and yeah.
Like it reminds me of when I used to play Diablo 3, where whenever there was a PTS and they did adjustments to the sets, they used to do this whole first greatly over exaggerate how good it was, and then low roll it, and then they kind of slowly get to a good median, and like whenever, like it never failed for my excited monkey brain to kind of go, oh my god, this set is gonna be amazing. And then being super disappointed next, until it kind of dawned on me, oh, hold on, I'm on the test server. Like, let's just chill out. So yeah, the same goes with any sort of paid value or such. Just we don't know until it's released. So let's stick with that. Speaking of don't knowing, that's good English, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Last episode, there was a bag that had a cat trapped in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, the cat's out of the bag now. And what cat are we talking about? Are we talking about Crumbs, or are we talking about Grumbles?
Well, there's a lot of C's in it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. I don't really like making a fuss about things. So you brought it up.
Yeah.
You deal with it.
Yeah. No. Like for a long time, I've sat here and bit my lip and going, when can I tell the people? When can we tell the people? When can we tell the people? Is it out now? Is it out now? And how many times on stream have I been kind of like, Grumbles was talking about something that he probably shouldn't know, since he's technically not a CC, even though he is a CC. Because you've been a CC and had privy to some information for a while now, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. They took the risk bringing me in earlier than, well, I said, oh, I will announce it a little bit later when I get around to it. I got some other things. We had charity events coming up and other things. I just like to focus on one thing at a time. And they were like, that's fine. They specifically were okay with it because they know that the chance of me remembering anything, whether it's NDA or not, is negligible. So we joined the CC program for World of Warships.
Welcome in.
Thank you. And it's been a really positive experience for me, both the response and encouragement and positivity from the Good Vibes crew, the community. You wouldn't expect anything else from them, but it's still great when you live through it. Just overall in my own experience, just seen and met a bunch of really positive people. Still more in my observing, not saying too much phase, because I'm also one of those people that's like, well, the new guy in town probably shouldn't be going in there bleating every 5 minutes. But I've said a few things here and there, and what I've been very enthusiastic about is seeing the passion and positivity from all of the people that are in that program contributing and helping, and the community team have been outstanding. Very impressed with the couple of folks that I've had most of the dealings with. They've been really responsive, really encouraging me, and just incredibly helpful. And in addition, some of the other CCs that are our buddies from the community, and friends of the channel and whatnot, and fellow streamers have been really amazing as well, because they know what I'm like. They know I don't have this encyclopedic knowledge or brain at all. So it's really nice to have people that can just back you up. And you're like, so someone's like, "Oh, you're a CC. You must know the answer to this." I'm like, "No, but I have people here that do." Yay! So that's just been, really nice that the people don't get upset or whatever with it. Everyone's been very, even newcomers to the channel and whatnot have been very understanding. And I just do things the way I do them. One of the key parts of the arrangement when Wargaming approached me was I don't want to do anything other than I already sort of do. I play the ships game when I want to, typically the Friday grumbling together with you and Grumpy, and then every once in a while, maybe once a week or something, if I feel like it and have time, depending what's going on. And they were like, "That's what we want. We actually don't want you. We've seen you play ships. We don't want you to play more ships because it's not good. So we'd rather that you just carried on playing other games and bringing it to a different audience and that." So we were all in agreement on that, and so I'm super happy with that arrangement. And the same that applies to all the CCs. It and do it excellently yourself. You have your opinion. You say what you think. You're reasonable in how you approach things. If you don't like something, you say, "I don't like it." And there's nothing wrong with that. That's encouraged, as long as you're not being redunculous about it. So so far, really liking the experience. I'm glad I've waited all this time, because that felt like, it didn't feel like the right time for me in previous opportunities or whatever, and that's why I've never really gone into sort of having a look at it. And now it feels comfortable, and that we've got some good people there in that community team, so you can build that rapport and trust with them. Just really enjoying it. And and as you know as well, it's really nice to be able to give some stuff back to people, as well as playing some of the ships and giving your opinion and thoughts. There's really no downside to it, I don't think.
No, like, honestly, being able to give out stuff for free and just still being the same person, and like just because we get some bonuses, like free premium and some doubloons per month, it's literally to allow us to do some testing with captains and so on and so forth, and to allow us that freedom of content creation. But for me, it is the biggest part of it is the ability to give free stuff to my community during events, or just throw the odd giveaway up on the Discord, or while I'm streaming, just kind of go, "Hey, let's give away the economic code," just and kind of give that back to those who are part of spreading the joy of the World of Warships community on Twitch, really.
Yep.
Because I really do believe that it's a wonderful part of that community.
Yep. Agreed. Matches my experience. So onwards and downwards.
So while we're also talking about things that we get to do, and some of the bonuses we receive, one of the bonuses, of course, that we receive coal and premium ships that aren't Steel or Research Bureau. We receive all of those ships for free, and one that recently got released is the Tromp. This firework of a tiny Dutch DD is hilarious, honestly. And it's not because it's overpowered. It's not because it has a super stealth or something. I think fully stealthed up you get down to 5.9 kilometers, but it has gimmicks, and mostly it has the airdrop gimmick, and it's just fun. It's just straight up fun. Being able to sit within, like I said, 5.9 kilometers, and like you can sit close to a battleship and drop it onto that battleship instead of like with the cruisers. The heavy cruisers, they're spotted from a mile away, or even more, because it's often around the area of the range of the drops. But this thing, you can knife fight with others and drop these bombs on them, and it has decent guns. It's just a fun little DD. What was your meeting of it on Friday when we played together? But with the staff bloke, actually.
Yeah, we did. It was. I mean, it was pretty silly to have 3 Tromps. But we're doing the thing when you get the good drops in. I call it now the Tromper Stomp.
Oh, God.
Having seen KidneyCowboy's clip of it, which folks should go out and watch, because it's pretty hilarious.
Should we leave a link to it?
Yeah, we can add. I can send you the link to it. It's very fun. It's well worth watching. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's a bit like, how many gimmicks can you put on one ship? It definitely, as you said, has its strengths and its weaknesses. And I was thinking about actually like comparing it to things like the Sherman, and like I would probably take the Sherman like 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. But the Trump can, it just, you're going to get those matches and those moments where it's just hilarious. Yeah, so it was nice to be able to, that was one of the first ones that I got a chance to look at in advance and then not say anything to anyone about. And the first impression I had of it, I can't remember exactly, but I was like stuck on an island being charged at by like a Hindenburg and stuff like that. And it was like, I'm going to have to run away, and it's going to be hard to hide and don't have any smoke or anything. But just having that top threat, which is, a bit unusual because it's a set either side. But that's also a nice, interesting sort of gimmicky angle to it, because you've got to think about that and use that accordingly. But just having a cruiser like charge at you and think, if you really want to come after me, well, I've got these little bombs I can drop on you every once in a while. So fine, catch. And I found that quite amusing. So yeah, it's interesting one. We'll have to see when we played it a little bit more and get more of a solid opinion on it. But the first impression is definitely, it's unusual. But it's kind of in an amusing way. Is it one of those that the novelty wears off and you play it, 10 times, you're like, okay, all right, done now? Or is it one that you think, okay, I can make this work more regularly? I'm not sure it would work on a competitive level, but there's definitely something, those that know me, and I think you have similar feelings. It's quite funny when you get those cruisers that kind of hug islands and sit there, and you're like the other side of the island. You're like, oh, well, if you're going to just sit there for a minute, buddy, So yeah, that's kind of amusing. One little snag I thought is that it's got the same, and I haven't played the Dutch cruisers enough to know if this is the same for them, but it's got that slightly annoying thing when you finish your bomb drop, you are sort of stuck when you go back to your guns in that sort of semi zoomed in or zoomed in at the ship level kind of position. You've got to either zoom back out or zoom in again. So that's a bit awkward and disorienting. The same as like the depth charge drops in anti-submarine warfare. But I don't know if that's something that will be ironed out in time, or if that's just the limitation and how it works.
I think it would be nice if we had an automatic switch from the drop to the main battery, but again, it's kind of like switching to torps while they're still on cooldown. It does change the layouts, and it's technically part of your armament. So I think it's just a matter of us getting used to it, of actually actively just switching back once you're done with it. Because, well, like I said, it is an armament after all. You should be able to go into it even though it's on cooldown. So yeah, we'll see. Like I believe it's gonna be a nothing burger at some point where we just kind of go, yeah, I now automatically switch out of that mode, you know. But I can imagine this being a fun little thing to use while kiting away on a defensive flank, and just kind of layering those bombs from time to time, where you don't drop both of them, but you have bombs, and then you have a set of torpedoes, and then you have bombs, and then a set of torpedoes, and then you have bombs and a set of torpedoes. You know, you never know what's going to come at you. So I do believe that's going to be a fun little thing to do. But yeah, Tromp, it's fun. I recommend it, if only for the gimmicks. Speaking of gimmicks, I have a tiny tournament that I'm going to be setting up soon. Where, because recently Bugsy and a few of the others in Wargaming allowed us to get some more codes. 10 Steam premium crates, I do believe, and 2 codes for the King George V, which is it's a Tech ship, but that's not the only thing that's part of that code. Part of that code is also a permanent economic upgrade bonus kit thing for tier 7 ship, and the absolutely fantastic looking Steam camo for the King George V. Have you seen that?
Yes.
It is.
I've played
gorgeous.
it a couple of times. It is.
It's beautiful. It's simplistic.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I can't even bring myself to properly describe it, but it's a gradient blue that starts out very light blue on the bow.
Yep.
Then it gets darker as it goes towards the middle. And then it increases in darkness all the way almost to a full black up through the smokestacks and like the superstructure on the ship. And it's just so well done. I do believe it's a community camo, actually.
I thought I read that somewhere too, but I haven't got the info in front of me. But otherwise, I'd shout the person out.
So yeah, I have 2 of those to give away, and I also have saved some of my own Black Friday camos, Black Friday codes. Because we do have some crate codes to give away, and it's going to be a 3-part tournament. First 2 parts are going to be team based, where I randomly draw a team of 12. So it's a total of 24 people in it, just so that's it. So in the first match, people are going to need the tier. I think it's the tier 6 Dutch cruiser. It's the first one with the airdrop. A 3-point captain. And 1 million credits to have the 4th slot occupied, because we're going to use the airdrop gimmick to see which team takes the most damage or gets the most kills. Or like the team that wins gets some points, and the team that loses gets 1 point. Then we move on to round number 2, which is again randomized teams. We randomized it. Like, we're not gonna stick with the same teams again. We randomize them, and it's a tier 5 battleship brawl. 12 versus 12 tier 5 battleships on a tiny map, and then. I've said no Julios, because we did a test and the Julio is absolutely broken, so let's not use the Julio. And it's gonna be on a tiny map, so 12 versus 12 there. And then the last part of the tournament, which is gonna be the one that takes the most time, is torpedo jousting with V25s. and that's going to be a series of 2 versus 2s, and then because it kind of rounds off with 3 people coming out of those 2v2s. And I imagine, like, I sat there and I was like, okay, how can we do this? Can we do a free-for-all? Then no, it's not. We can't do a free-for-all anymore. How can we do this? And then I was like, okay, let's let fate decide. I take out my secondary spec Schlieffen. I sail into the middle of a tiny cap, and then you have these V25s circling at around and around, and whoever gets shot down first, well, they are in place number 2, and then in place number 3, and then there's the second place, and then there's gonna be the last man standing. So just to see how it goes, I think that's a good way of ending it. So, and with all those points divided, we will have a top 3, and those 3 will, like the top 2 will get a KGV each, and like there's gotta be prizes galore, This is kind of gonna be like the bot tournament I held, Lord of the Fjord.
Yep.
It was it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing this.
Nice, sounds awesome.
So just stay close to a Discord near me or something. I don't know. I'll announce it on my Discord once it's ready to go. For those,
you gotta keep your eyes peeled, folks.
Speaking of keeping eyes peeled, there's this other game that we play that really needs you to stay on top of your screen and make sure that it's not dirty. It's War Thunder.
Yep.
See these segues, man.
Yep.
I've
on fire today.
Something's happened. Anyway, War Thunder recently had a World War mode active, which hasn't been active in a long time.
Yep.
I didn't get to test it, but you got to test it.
I did.
How was it? And walk us through it. What's the idea of World War mode, first and foremost?
Yeah. So shout out to Crab Nation, who was playing this on stream, and I saw it and I was like, "What's this?" And then I had a look at it the next day. It's basically a big old kind of campaign map that's running with different sectors and like little hexagons or whatever. Like an old school civilization map or whatever, and you have obviously attacking and defending teams, and various different types of encounters and battles, ranging from escort missions to just straight up direct conflicts, combat scenarios, and a bunch of stuff around that. And you have like mechanized infantry units, of tank divisions, and artillery, and your airfields for air support. And you have 2 generals, if you will, commanding the map part of it and sort of choosing where to move stuff around. And that's just a player that's opted to go into that particular position. And then there's just like, I don't know, dozens, I don't know how many, but like loads of these running in parallel. So like multiple sets of like 1v1, like a chess match, and everyone else gets to be pawns on the battlefield and participating. And the generals kind of move their stuff around and decide where to attack, where to defend, where to hold. And you get sort of the general goals of, the defenders maintain at least one of these strategically important positions. And the campaign, each session will run like, I can't remember the exact times, but just say like it's an hour or 2 hour. I think it was like an hour and 20 or an hour and a half, something like that. And then all these various battles ensue all the time with both squadrons of players and individual players. Like I was playing solo, and you're just jumping into all these different battles. Typically, in these scenarios, it was lineups of like BR. I think around the 3 mark. Give or take a few points.
Yeah.
And you had a system in it that would allow you to like auto pick a lineup for you. so you didn't always have to get it right or whatever. But you could, of course, if you had varying tanks that were within that range and that nation, then you could sort your own lineup out as well. And then you basically just pick a battle. A number of battles will be lined up. It'll say this battle's commencing in like 2 minutes. This one's already just started a few minutes ago. This one's running in 7 minutes time, and that kind of thing. They'd all be stacked up, and you could say, oh, this is the one I really want to participate in next. I can go and make myself a coffee, you up for this battle that starts in 5 minutes, that kind of thing. So you had a certain degree of flexibility, and it was all done on realistic battles level. I think it would be phenomenal if this got developed further and was available for sim in the future, just so that that's said and kind of out of the way. And it was just super, super fun. They were just all sort. It was just utter chaos a lot of the time, but like in a really fun way, because you were, they were basically like a ticking point system. That if you did nothing, so say you didn't lose units, but you weren't achieving the objective, say the objective was to press and hold a certain point, capture the ABC, that kind of stuff, or get the escort mission done. If you just didn't do it, if it was a bit of a stalemate or whatever, and you were just holding off, and you were like kind of technically winning that battle in a traditional RB way of winning or losing, you'd still lose. You had I think it's called morale points for each army, and you would lose morale for the army because you didn't achieve the actual objective of the mission.
All right. Okay.
So that would like negate, people that might go in and try and cheese it, or just be like, oh, well, if we just hold the point and win the fight, great. But winning that battle didn't help your overall war effort because you'd lose morale, and the morale was quite important on having a number of units that you could put into the next battles and stuff like that. It was very cool.
Yeah. So I know they've had this before, and sitting down and watching Crab Nation, and I really wanted to play it because that to me is what a realistic battle should be about. Where, or at least have it as an option, because it wasn't just player versus player. There were some PvE elements in there too. Like these convoys that you mentioned, there was an actual mission to accomplish. It wasn't just drive at the enemy and shoot them in the face until they die kind of thing that we have in Tank RB today. So yeah, if anybody within Gaijin are listening, please let's keep this going.
Yep.
The predefined loadouts and everything, it's perfect. Like, it's not like you're gonna get a stupid premium loadout by somebody that has all the random and old vehicles that are silly broken. No, everybody has the same stuff. You need to unlock it, yeah, of course, but everybody has the same stuff, and it's balanced out against each other. And I absolutely love that.
Yep.
It looked like massive amounts of fun, and I want to see similar things for naval battles and also for air battles. Like, it felt kind of like a mixture between enduring confrontation and the PvE mode that I can't remember what's called. Because enduring confrontation is a great mode.
Yep.
So yeah,
no, this is great. And as I said before, just to reiterate, if they do develop it, I think it was about 1.5 years that it was in before. I don't know, but just from what people mentioned, and it's so good. It gives you such a different feeling and perspective of what you're looking at. To have that at least as an option for people. And if they ever are able to do something like that to make that work for simulation, oh boy, just so good. Because the fact you have to keep moving, you have to keep, it's you can be tactical. You've got to get your squadrons or get your teams and your random players all kind of pulling together a bit. And I can't imagine what an event or just groups of people, in various divisions of voice chat and everything, you could have some proper contest and competition, but like in a fun way with that. I really, it was as a foundation to build from. It was really good.
Yeah, so it's not just about the quickest vehicle to get to a certain camping spot and sit, and then you have control over that cap.
Yep.
There was so much more, and I really want to try it. So next time they bring it around, I'm gonna make sure to actually have time.
Yeah, absolutely. I found out quite late, and it was only on for a few days. So
yeah,
just need to get the ping earlier, or they could just have it running for 2 weeks or something. I don't know. I guess it puts a lot of load on the servers, but hopefully they got a ton of really good data from it. So if Mike and Tom are listening, come on, let's have more of that.
should probably mention to them that we actually have a steady War Thunder segment in our podcast. Anyway, speaking of other events that were fun, they recently had a crafting event.
Right.
Well, it's not necessarily a crafting event, but it was part of their 5-year anniversary. Some sort of anniversary, at least.
10-year anniversary?
10 year, like it was. Yes, 10. Yes, it's 10.
Yeah.
Not 5. Yes, thank you. Where by doing missions, you could build a very special vehicle. And I'm talking about the 38 centimeter Sturmmörser, aka the SturmTiger, which is an assault breach tank which is used to bring down bunkers with a 38 centimeter wide rocket. To give context, 380 millimeters, aka 38 centimeters, is the same caliber as one of the barrels on the Bismarck or Tirpitz. They placed a tiny barrel that wide on a Tiger chassis and fired rockets out of it. For a temporary amount of time, you could get that thing in War Thunder. I have it, and there was shenanigans. Me, Killerben, Statsbloke, and Durak sat down with it, and we used it as indirect fire. On flat maps, we pretty much just sat, we aimed, we found out, okay, it's that far to the cap. Sorry, bit of cough there. It's that far to the cap. Then we pre-aimed at roughly how far that would be, and then we waited until it started ticking into the enemy's favor. And then it was like, all four of us letting go. And more times than not, we actually got kills out of it.
So you invented, or you ported World of Tanks' most hated element, artillery, into War Thunder.
We took indirect fire out of the hands of the artillery button and into our own hands. Now, fair enough. With a fully aced crew, you can only get one shot every 40-ish seconds. So I wouldn't call it OP, but my god, the amount of laughs and such. And
very silly.
I was a giggling schoolboy at some point where I pulled a 1,200 meter shot that hit a rooftop about 5 meters away from a poor open top vehicle that then just, the crew were turned into jelly beans. So it was amazing fun, and that's kind of the reason why I absolutely love War Thunder. You get these actual vehicles in special variety that you can then use like this. I'm hoping for the day where we get something similar in World of Warships, but it's a completely different combat system, so it's not really gonna be anything like that. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Had so much fun with that, and we'll be doing more of that. I actually do have a stream highlight that I just remembered that I've forgotten to finish of that stream. So I need to try to get that up and running and get it on YouTube. We'll ping Discord when done. Make note to self.
There's gonna be a lot of pings in your Discord.
Yeah, there is. There's also gonna be a lot of content creation because, well, I need to get back into it. Need to get my brain going again. It's been a bit of a lull.
Speaking of getting your brain going and content creation.
Yeah. It's time for another segment of streaming and content creation. Where,
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, the oddly specific and very fitting, scary fanfare. Twitch are adjusting bit prices, or have already adjusted bit prices. Some of you might already had a notification about it. Some of you might not. But here's the gist of it. We basically got an email saying, bit prices have been adjusted. Here's the reason why. Following the global economy, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, because they are now not making enough money on bits, it is what I read through the lines, at least. I'm honestly, I'm trying to stay positive, but it's hard not to read it this way with the words they choose. They are choosing to have a more fluid adjustment of bit prices. They used to have it once a year. They're now going to be doing it multiple times a year. In other words, they're going to be doing it when it fits them, as in they are going to get the most profit out of it. And that on top of the way that Twitch pays out to its creators is also a bit iffy. For those who are not aware of it, there is essentially a 48-hour window where Twitch can choose to pay out to its creators. For a vast majority of its creators, we get paid in our own local currency. And for a long time, this has been advantageous for both Twitch and us. However, what they've started doing is they've started to initiate the payouts within that 48-hour window on the lowest cost for them. In other words, also the lowest cost or the lowest payout for the creators. And I'm trying to stay positive regarding Twitch and the way they do things, and that this is going to operations, that there's a lot going on in the background that we're not aware of, that we're not seeing directly. But with these sort of things being obviously thrust into our faces as creators, it's very hard not to feel that there is a very businessy kind of businessman sitting behind and wanting to get the most out of its profits instead of building up a better platform for its creators. And that in lieu of also how they have recently gone out and said that TikTok and YouTube and other places are essentially the best place to be discovered on Twitch. It's yeah, I don't know. Do you have any uplifting words, Grumbles, please, to help me dig out of this hole?
Well, I don't know. You've dug pretty deep there.
Yeah, before I drag you down here, please.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, firstly, obviously, I don't think it's not. We're not breaking any sudden world news of big business corporations look after themselves first. It's always going to be the way, sadly. I think that clearly, it's part of a long-standing pattern or a group of activities going on. Obviously, somebody's come in, had a look at the books, and realized, well, this doesn't add up. And they're trying to sort of tighten it up. Now, that's kind of common in pretty much any business. And so why should the Twitch service can't be immune to it? It's in the same system. I think that the part of the challenge is that ultimately, companies will look after themselves first, and we're kind of bound by the fact that we need them to survive and do well. In essence, even though if in theory, we're doing our thing and using their platform, etc. So theoretically, it's independent, but it always feels a bit rough when they make changes that feel like they impact us more. It's like. Yeah, the reality is, I suppose, put it in simpler terms, is just because it's a service there for creators to create on, ultimately, it's not there exclusively for the creators, right? So that being said, the world being as it is, the currency fluctuations, all those kind of things, it would be nice if there was a way for some of that to be at least met in the middle, like some of that difference to be covered or whatnot, but of course it doesn't make sense for them from a purely business perspective. They're not a charity. I would just wish that there was I wish that all of these things were more transparent across the board, and that you could see things like, for example, PayPal fees or general transaction fees and stuff like that. A lot of the things that could make it more viable and more healthy for creators revolve around giving the people that support us more consistent and cost-effective ways to bring that support, rather than us having to find even more tools and services, be it a Patreon or a Ko-fi or merch store or whatever. It's on the one hand, you can look at it and say, well, it's cool, you can do all these additional things. The reality is you're then putting the creators under more and more pressure to do all those extra things. And people will be, oh, it's just a few extra buttons. It's not. You've got to think about your brand. You've got to think about quality, consistency. You got, what will your community like, and so forth. Also the creative elements of it, maybe paying for elements like, the artwork that goes onto those. There's different prices typically, unless you're creating your own work. But, if your other creators are supporting you in providing emotes and artwork for you to use, then typically you would pay them differently as part of a merchandising arrangement than if you just had a one-off as an emote for your site or something and things. So there's all these other layers that go on, and ultimately, as you're kind of alluding to, we feel it because we've got to cover all of those bases. And that's on top of whatever kind of crazy, especially, in a full-time streaming capacity, that's already the thing to be an entertainer without being a trained, whatever, TV personality or, and that kind of thing. So you're already kind of pushing certain boundaries and pushing yourself in regards to just what you're doing and trying to put a good show on and care for your community. And that's obviously on top of whatever else is going on in life and so forth. So none of this is ever intended to be like a bleeding heart stir or whatever. We're very grateful and extremely happy and humbled that we're even able to be in these positions and do these things. But it just makes it all the more difficult. And I think if nothing else, it's helpful to talk about it and share some of our thoughts and experiences, so you can see it's not because I think there's certainly still a certain sense, although I think that's breaking down a little bit, but that kind of sense of like, oh, you're just streaming that, so you're just sitting at a computer playing a game or something. It's like, no, it's a little bit more involving and mentally taxing than just that. Some people might make it look that easy, but it isn't.
I think most people that have popped by any of our channels and kind of looked at how we do things, because not to pat my own shoulder, I do believe that I am a good streamer in the way I do things, and I surround myself with great streamers: Grumbles, Grumpy, Durak, and so on and so forth. There's so many names, so many names. I shouldn't really be mentioning anybody, but there are also so many that have popped in and said, "Oh, I can do this," and then later on messaged me and gone, "Holy shit, how do you do this?
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep up with chat and the game and everything at the same time? Like, how?" And for so many hours at the same time. I was like, yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. And it's just, yeah, and it's kind of frustrating to see some of these moves by Twitch, especially when it comes to bits. Knowing that it's 100% virtual currency, where you give them $2 and you get the value of $1. That's that's something that annoys me. On a subscription, sure, I'm okay with that being a 50-50. I'm perfectly fine with that being a 50-50. But for bits, there is a 40%, almost 50% overhead on the purchase of bits as opposed to what you actually get. And that's something that's been grinding on my mind lately. It's just the insanity of how much the viewer actually gets of it as opposed to what they pay.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think maybe to make it a bit more abstract, it hurts particularly especially because we also care about this platform,
Yeah.
not just as a livelihood or whatever, but just because we think it's a really cool piece of technology and a great opportunity for people to be out there and create and connect. I mean, just look at the communities that we're a part of, right? We wouldn't have met all these wonderful people without this. I think that, not to put a political spin on it, but the bottom line is if people and corporations paid their taxes, as in properly, a lot of this stuff could be done in a way that was more if it's done in what feels like a fairer way and a more economically viable way for people. Yeah. And if you really extend out to ignoring the top tier, most people on the platform, or who were even thinking about doing it or whatever, and needing it to be a part or full-time income opportunity, that really needs to be, at the moment I would describe it as not economically viable. You need, generally speaking, either significant time where you have to have that chance or something supporting you to make it possible to build up to that level, or you need to have other means of income, typically sponsored streams, that kind of stuff, which also though dictates to a large extent what you can then stream and how you want to go about things. You're simply not doing the thing unless you're extremely lucky and happen to fall upon sponsorship deals that totally fit what you want to do, which is not often the case. The options are limited, and it's not really economically viable, not as the main source of your income or whatever, and that's kind of where you want it to be if you're not doing this for anything other than a hobby. So yeah, hopefully things will change. I think that in part it's also state of the world and how things are right now. It's nobody's got it easy, because I would say everyone's being squeezed, except perhaps those few people that probably could be fairly squeezed and solve a lot of the imbalance. But
yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, not just Jeff. It always makes me chuckle a little bit. It reminds me of a completely different topic, but about diversification and using different platforms, and how people always speak so highly of YouTube as an example, or as a as a comparison. It's like it's the same thing but even bigger and even more
it is
imbalanced. It's like, I don't know how people think of like YouTube or TikToks or things like that as like, those, look at those, they're so much better. It's like,
really are.
They're actually bigger and more complex and and in air quotes worse. But yeah, sure. So it's funny how some systems and people get a free pass, and others are like, oh, this is it, this is the personification of, or this is the exact problem. And I don't know why that becomes sort of trendy, or how it gets talked about, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, hopefully, it's, some of the things could lend themselves to big improvements down the line, because if they go to the trouble of putting systems in place that, for example, deal with currency fluctuations better, and changes in world events and changes in tax regimes and whatever, that's laying the foundations. It's putting the framework there so that these adaptations could be, in theory, applied, on both sides, or a sliding bar, to use the ad incentive program stupid page as an example. You could have that to make it more, to balance it out a little bit with the creators. Of course, that, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, because that would be both naive and also not fitting the track record of how corporations usually operate. But in trying to see the positive side of it, at least the possibility would be there. Whether that would get used or not, we'll have to see. I'm not going to hold my breath.
No, it's a big world, and there's even bigger corporations out there that do their thing. And like you said, there's so many things that play in on this, like anything from global events to international or national events. Like if something were to happen in the US that greatly threw off the value of the dollar, it would impact a whole lot of streamers. So yeah,
I'm not going to bring it up in detail here, but it sort of reminds me of the what you said there about something happening. Reminds me a bit of that happened recently with on Twitter, and what was it? The Eli Lilly and the people that own the insulin. Did you see that? That's we're not going to go into it here because that's way out of our remit and probably ends up getting the podcast flagged. But just go and have a look. Look up the recent insulin tweet story and market value. It's a very funny story.
Yeah. I'm not gonna mention too much about Mr. Top of Twitter and such there, but it's kind of the epitome of how much effect a tiny, seemingly insignificant change can have.
Yeah. You know what though? These are all people just playing their role. Speaking of which,
it's time for Hit It, Grumbles.
Know your role. do.
Yeah, the keyboard is off and it's full of papers.
Jingle goes down again.
Yeah, like hold on. Know your role. Know your role. Know your role. Know your role. That was horrible. The best part
of all of that is I could hear you moving the keys, but I couldn't hear any of the notes.
No, like I've tried something on the Goic Solar. Okay. It probably played back on the episode, but not to you. It's just it's horrible. Let's
expecting me to hear something other than the key presses. Okay.
No. Let's not worry too much about it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Know your role has become a staple. And I look forward to talking about it. And actually, I saw something right before the editorial meeting. Somebody talking about one of the best combinations that they could ever have in D&D 5th edition. A halfling level 5 warlock
Mm-hmm.
So a halfling in 5th edition can be inside of somebody else's square without hindrance, because as long as they're a size category larger than the halfling.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a combination of a crossbow feat plus Eldritch Blast and a knockback feat of sorts, where when casting, because of a certain feat, there was no disadvantage even when you're within a threatened square.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Eldritch Blast, which then, together with a knockback feat, would cause the target to be knocked back upwards of 120 feet. So, being a halfling, standing in the middle of somebody's legs, blasting this Eldritch Blast, the only direction you could seemingly have the knockback go is upwards. That means that anything above, I think it's 20 feet, you take fall damage coming down. So then there's the Eldritch Blast on top of the falling damage, and like it just turned into this huge amount of number, and just I can just imagine Jurak giggles because of said thing happening. You know, you see a tiny halfling zoom in through the feet of somebody, poof, somebody gets launched, you hear a faint giggle of a Jurak, and then a halfling disappears before said thing lands and takes even more damage. That's that. Yeah, I kind of want to try it, and that's also a kind of bringing me into what I want to do on my new channel. I have a third Twitch channel. So there's TigersDen, which from now on is going to be World of Warships and War Thunder content, except if it's sponsored content popping up.
Right.
And then, of course, there's Live from the North, which is it's just going to be Live from the North. I'm not going to do anything with that. It's just going to do its thing, except build it out with more cameras, possibly.
Right.
However, there is my third channel out there now called Random Acts of Laughter, which used to be my 3D printing channel, but I've just rebranded it into that, where everything else random that goes on the channel, like we're talking Satisfactory, we're talking The Angler, we're talking all of these things that are done together with friends and so on, are going to be there. And I have for the longest time wanted to set up a role-playing game that I can run every second Friday. And the idea is to bring in people from the community, like have guest players from the community, and have like, are you familiar with Harmon Quest?
No.
Okay. Harmon Quest is made by Dan Harmon, one of the creators of Community, one of the creators of Rick and Morty, where he has 3 players that are always there. Him is one of them, and then there's his girlfriend / wife / ex-wife, all depending on where you are in the series, and and one other actor who has been part of Whose Line Is It Anyway several times. So they are the steady players. They're always there. And then they bring in a guest player, another actor, either a friend or something that plays together with them. And then they halfway animate this, and and there's encounters, and it's focused on the fun role play and the shenanigans, rather than rules as written, you know.
Yeah.
And they have a DM, Spencer Crittenden. Like, it's fantastic, and that's kind of what I want to create. Only, I don't want to play. I will be DM. And just kind of seeing all these inspirations on TikTok, or thinking back about some of these weird magic items that we've talked about earlier. This is the sort of stuff I want to implement in that campaign, where we can bring in somebody from the community for 1 or 2 sessions, and they get their spotlight, they get to have their fun, and then you have all these other veteran players that are normally there, and they're kind of like in Tiny Tina's Wonderland, where they go into a support role almost. Like, they're still very important, but they're there to kind of build up and hype up this guest player, or interact with them, like get quests from them or whatever. And I really want to do that.
Sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
Really want to do that, because it's been a long time since I've been able to actively DM. Like, I've had this group running with Mari, Dante, Jurek, and Jetty through the charity adventure that I wrote, and that really kindled that love of DMing again. So yeah, Friday Shenanigans with Tiger. Keep an eye on a Discord near you.
There you go.
Maybe.
And the name of the channel again?
Random Acts of Laughter.
There you go. We'll put a link in the doobly-doo.
We'll put a link in the doobly-doo. The description. Let's see here. Random Acts of Laughter. We could probably just disclose that we've had many hints and jabs at each other of actually writing down these things so that we don't forget. So that's what we're doing now. Anyway, that's my one redeeming factor. What's your redemption?
Aha, I see what you did there. Cunning.
Yeah.
Well, I just dipped my toe into the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 roleplay. Just recently got around to finishing off the main game story. In as much as it doesn't ever really fully end, but there's the main chunk of it, and yeah, just it's a masterpiece. Love it to bits. But I've been wanting to roleplay in Red Dead for quite a while, ever really since falling in love with the story. Played a little bit of Red Dead Online, and had some fun doing that, but it has its limitations, not least of which being a public open internet servers. Say no more. Yeah, just stars didn't align and all the rest of it. But we just finished some other roleplay things, and there was a bit of a lull, bit of a gap, and then a few friends, other streamers that I know, were like, "Oh, you ever done some Red Dead?" No, not really, but I've wanted to, but And we were just looking at this kind of 3 to 4 week kind of gap. I mean, I don't think it's even 4 weeks. That's pretty exaggeration, between different things going on. And coincided with it's actually Twitch RP. They've picked up what was called previously the PRC, and they're folding that into their mix of service offerings that they have. So we're applying for that one, and we just dipped our toe into Ranch RP. One of our friends, Supersonic 21, good fellow, that we were in a charity event recently, and we've RP'd an Atlas a ton together and some eco together, and he gave Ranch a go. I don't know how he got that recommended, or it's just a random pick. There's a bit of a cowboy in him, and yeah, one thing leads to another, and I jumped on there to have a go as well, while waiting for this other one to open up. And it's nothing short of hilarious. It's great RP. It's people sharing stories and having fun together. And it's all the hilarity that can ensue from Red Dead Redemption engine, which doesn't always do what you'd expect it to do. Not in a bad way, just in a, oops, did I press that button? Oh dear, I've punched my horse kind of way. So yeah, been playing on Ranch RP and for a few days now, and it's just been a real blast. People have been incredibly welcoming. The roleplay has been on point. It's a non-allow listed or non-whitelisted server, so it's open to anybody, but obviously with a set of rules and things to adhere to, which doesn't always turn out to be the case in the reality, sadly. But in this particular case, I think in particular one of the settings, they've got the reticle turned off, so you can't do the quick auto aim or be like the best headshot artist the world's ever seen, that kind of thing. You actually have to apply yourself and miss most of the time. And I think that kind of puts a lot of the troll brigade off by the looks of it, is my gut feeling anyway. So what you get is people generally just wanting to role play on there, and everyone's just been wonderful, been really friendly, really great fun, good characters, some pretty solid like voice acting, if you will, putting on character voices and stuff like that. And yeah, having a blast. Got kidnapped on Sunday morning and managed to have my character talk his way out of it. So there's a highlight of that on the YouTube. Pretty impressed. And got a ping from the other player on their Discord. They have an RP appreciation channel, which is something I'm getting really, really into. Saw that on Dark Side and a few other places. And got a ping on there from the other player saying, "Bravo, well done for talking your way out of that," because their characters, the whole setup was around about a gang leader who the other gang members take the mickey out of because he's a terrible shot. So what they did is kidnap my character, tied him to a tree, and they were going to take 3 shots and then treat his wounds if he got hit, or everyone have a bit of a laugh if the gang leader continued to be a terrible shot and didn't hit me at all. And my character managed to talk his way entirely out of it, including calling heads on a coin flip. Yeah, it's just really, really good. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that. So if people out there have got Red Dead or thinking about it and whatnot, yes, there will be some trials and tribulations, especially if you go onto non-whitelisted or allow-listed servers, because it's the internet and people take pleasure in ruining other people's fun sometimes. So you have to be aware of that and try and work your way around it, or find a good home. But definitely give it a go, because there are servers out there and communities and players out there that want nothing but to role play and have some fun. Like, we've met a whole ranch load of people where there are managers of the ranch hands, farmers, blacksmiths, doctors, all living together and working as like families or as a business ranch unit. And they're really into it. Like, they don't even get to go out and do other stuff because they spend hours role playing as the manager of the ranch and that kind of stuff. This
sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Hours playing and taking care of a town or a ranch?
Yep.
Where have I heard that before? Help me out here, Pete. I mean, Grumbles.
Right? Exactly. So, yeah, it's been... I mean, honestly, we've even had those conversations like, imagine if we had the Rockstar game engine and graphical capabilities to roleplay Atlas in, or I've said it before as well. If there was this, or say a medieval setting, I don't want to go off on another tangent, but I saw a trailer for a game called Blight Survival the other day. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Unreal Engine 5, and it looks like
okay.
It's anyway, go check that out for yourselves. Blight Survival, it looks amazing. So what was I talking about? I've forgotten now. Yeah, so anyway, Red Dead is just stunning. And if they could do something like that, or if they could have, say, multiple servers with what do you call it, like my idea would be to split the Red Dead map up into 4 or 5 zones and have each one on its own server.
Yeah,
And then the only
have them be grids. Yeah.
yeah, the only thing that would interfere would be like, train journey, but you'd have a short load time. But loading into that game doesn't take that long anyway. That's just, I suppose you'd be missing the build engine, but where you can do things with like tank and shacks models and stuff. Tent, things like that. Entirely possible. Yeah, so absolutely loving it. So my top tip is, one, if you've never played the Red Dead story but you've got it, or you think you've got it, I think the sale is still going on, right? The autumn sale, because it's on super cheap, less than £20. 100% worth it. It's an amazing story and game. Plus, you get Red Dead Online, which you can still have fun in, even if it's a bit dodgy around the edges. And then on top of that, you've got the opportunity to jump on the Red M servers, Red M community, and yeah, it's amazing. You can have such a good time in it.
There are other very large communities out there that do a whole lot of roleplay, and I dare say that maybe one of the bigger ones, because it involves a lot of the really big names on Twitch within these circles, is the Late Show, or the late show. Hello.
The Late Shift.
The Late Shift. Hello, brain. Late Show. What?
They shifted the name of their show.
Yeah, the Late Shift, aka Gassy Mexican, Burke Black, Cream,
Dang it,
Cletus, who else? Venilus is technically part of it too, as far as I know, and there's a few others. And they have
classy packs.
Classy packs, yes, of course. I like many wonderful good names on Twitch. And they've had their eco event, which of course in turn inspired this summer's eco event by Mr. Statsbloke. And it's now coming back again. And
it is January.
Yeah, and you're going to be part of that.
I am, yeah. Well, at least I hope so. I mean, everyone's got to still apply, but hopefully it'll work. And yeah, it's going to be tentatively the return of Ivan. After Gaia, they call their world, didn't survive mankind the first time around, despite Ivan and Marebear's best efforts. We'll see. Apparently, there's been a disaster. Company or whatever, a government thing to try and help recover the world, and now they want to see what people are going to do to not spoil it and do better than they did last time. So that they've got some little posters out, sort of teasing everyone. What was it called? Let me see if I can find the name here in parallel. Here we go. Yeah, the EDD. EDD, which is the Eco Disaster Department. So they've put some posters up. They're short ones. I'll just read. It says, calling all survivors, the EDD is here for you. We've done our part and now it's your turn. Join the call and help rebuild Gaia from calamity. Teamwork wins. Together we can. Nothing worth having comes easy. And then there's another poster with more detail. And they're looking for people. They're looking to structure it. They're asking if people want to do food services, government, civil services, mechanical, sanitation, law enforcement, postal services, and many more. So they're kind of already looking to structure and guide people and say, oh, maybe you want to work in this area and so forth, to have a kind of a teamwork. We're rebuilding the world together kind of thing. Because last time around, it was all about how we polluted the world and caused the sea levels to rise, and everyone had to go and live in some sort of survival bunker. There were
some panicked clips out there of people going, "Oh no! Get the no!" And a lot of screaming, and there were confused dogs in the background, and there was a lot going on many a Twitch clip from that event. And that was fantastic. So are they doing the same thing that Stats did with limitation of roles?
I don't know. They haven't published more details yet, so they're just saying that applications are opening up again, I think on 4th of December. there or thereabouts.
Like, with the idea of kind of guiding people into these roles, I would imagine that they're doing some sort of limitation. And honestly, the way stats did it, where you're locked out of some things,
Yeah.
and it brings the the cohesiveness of this little community together. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. So I think there was some limitations, and the way people worked around those limitations was the classic kind of, building kind of quite powerful groups. So this time around, I think I don't know the details, but my assumption stroke wish is that there will be a bit of a refiguring how to avoid power groups and that kind of like, oh, let's help so and so, because you get a lot of, and there's nothing wrong with it inherently. It's you want to help your friends, you want to help streamer ABC, that kind of thing. I don't, fundamentally that's going to happen anyway, but there needs to be, in order for it to be a more immersive and enjoyable experience for the entire end of the event, which goes on for pretty much the whole of Jan, you kind of need to balance that out a little bit somehow. And I think one of the ways is to adjust some of the restrictions. So one of the things we did is we shared a lot of information, and we had Willy Wonka, who's one of the key admins and driving forces behind the configuration. We had him witness a lot of what we did in the summer vacation, shared a lot of information on the Discord in the background and that, and said, look, we can hook all you guys up. I know that stats, hopefully he's gonna be brave and press those buttons and apply to play along in this one. So that would be good, because that will connect people up with one another. And the great thing about eco and the various sort of communities and people playing is everybody's really willing to like throw in their ideas and experiences and that, and then try and come up with the next iteration. Of course, you get into a bit of a bun fight of like, well, who's right, or I think this should be this and this should be that. Fingers crossed they'll have a bit of a government in place for the beginning this time, and it won't, because the government thing always gets a little bit too competitive, or people drag it too much of the real life sentiment into the game world, for my personal taste. But they do say that conflict is useful in roleplay. You certainly can't really have none, because a lot of people get lost in that and don't know what to do then. So we just got to see, man. And you never know with the players we've got and the personalities. All you know is there's going to be some crazy creative stuff. There's going to be some really fun role playing going on, and just expect anything, really. People will come up with anything. Last time they built underground like processing facilities that were polluting the ocean, almost like, I don't know if it was it was almost right under the town, but it was just in bunkers, so no one knew it was there. So, and it was deliberate. It was like intended to be like, well, pollution's going to be coming from somewhere, so let's start investigating. Like, what's this weird garage? Where does this tunnel lead? And so it was all there to be had, and some of it was. I think that a lot of it as well was a lot of people are fairly new to eco and or new to role playing in eco. So it was this time around. Hopefully, you'll get a mixture of some new blood and a lot of experienced returning players, and so people will kind of have a gist of like, oh, okay, we know where to start now, so we can get at it a little bit sooner. And I'm hoping that we can connect up with a few players and make a not a power group, because it's just not my style of play, but I'd like to do something more in the food services area with the farming and that, but make it more of a communal effort rather than individuals doing their thing and just kind of getting along with each other. I'd rather team up. And I know that eco, the developers, have made a lot of changes to the way the housing works, and they're bringing out lots of fun additional content and furniture and all that kind of stuff. So some of that stuff's coming around the corner in the next big releases, but the one they're doing for this month is a 9.7, which is a massive performance boost for the client and the server side,
which is needed.
Yeah. So yeah, look, man, it's just smiling from ear to ear. Just as soon as the eco comes up in the conversation, I'm like, yeah, let me at it. But I'm also desperately trying not to think or talk too much about it, because I don't want to wish December away. It's like, let's enjoy this one day at a time, and there's a lot coming up that I'm super excited about. But eco's a big highlight. Also, just while we've been talking, sorry, I got a ping saying that my app for the TRP Red Dead is accepted. So big thanks to Gooch for helping me out with that in the background and getting that bumped up the list, sort of thing. So appreciate it.
Speaking of December, am I bringing the Book of Grudges with me?
Oh yeah, you could do. Weather and my brain permitting, and try and pop down. Maybe I'll take a train or something, make it easier.
Would be very nice. It would be.
Not that far away, I don't think. I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing. Nuremberg is not that far away from.
No, and there is a certain Karottenbrot and also a certain LC that has requested the opportunity of meeting up too. So.
Oh goodness me! Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly along in the thoughts of the community, we have some questions and comments.
Yes.
Honestly, these segues, they've been scarily smooth lately. Like, what's up? Like, I don't know. Anyway,
hang on, quick thought, right?
Yeah.
Should we call this episode could be called the Segue edition?
The Segue edition. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Do we write it? No, we can't write it like the tech company. We gotta.
No. Let's not.
No, let's. But anyway, I think that's how we write it. Anyway, we'll figure that out. Post production. Speaking of post production, post production of last episode, we got some very nice comments from community member Mr. DaHogi, who commented on our YouTube video. The episode that goes up on YouTube. He says, I'm just gonna read the whole thing. No, he says, there are a lot of topics, and it's a very long podcast. I listened until the end, and I did not regret it. Very often was smiling, sometimes laughing. In these dark days, this podcast is bringing some sunshine into the world. Do not get me wrong, not every point was like sunshine. Thank you for recording and uploading this podcast. You are very welcome, DaHogi. There are a lot of options on how to implement something like CC belonging into a game, from my point of view, he says. We lost the signals telling and showing which bonuses we use on the ship, so why not use these places showing for CC logos? And then he has a few ideas of where to put them in, and this is something that we've talked about before. And he also mentions the clan logo that is available for World of Tanks, and I remember that was a system that was there a long time ago. Like we're talking when I first started playing, they had that system where you could upload a little PNG of your clan logo, and that would show on your tank. I realize that there's a certain limitation that needs to be done on those things. However, just like in War Thunder, having a decal you can place on your ship, or maybe even have it be on a set place on the ship, like on the bow or the stern or whatever, I think this is a good idea. It's honestly a good idea. Like the CC logo, or, you know, let's say somebody uses your link to go buy something in the armory. Well, then they get your Twitch logo or whatever that they can place on their ship, showing that they have supported you. I think this is a great idea, and not just on the like the, what are these little emblems that you get that shows as your commander after you've killed somebody. I don't think a lot of people spend a lot of time looking at those, but however, being able to show them on your ship and as you're sailing past somebody, or so, I think that could be really cool.
Yep.
Like, you would have to have some sort of what should we say? Some sort of
like vetting of it or whatever. Or?
Yeah. There would have to be some sort of vetting of it, of course. But I also imagine that it could even be several tiers. So let's take the stats bloke as an example.
Mm-hmm.
A fairly consistent, fairly sizable content creator in World of Warships. So let's say that the first 50 people that use this code, they get access to one of his logos. But then he has another sticker or logo or decal or whatever, that gets unlocked from number 51 and up to 100, and so on and so forth. So that the more people back up one of their favorite creators or such, they could then unlock more of their decals. And with the quality of certain Twitch logos and so on that people have, emotes these days, I don't think it should be a problem to get it into a good enough quality to look good on the ship as a decal or something. So,
yeah, I mean, you could, or it could just be you'd have to choose to commission a piece of art or something. But I agree.
So,
I mean, I think why not? Like they do it in War Thunder, so I think it would be a nice. And if they have this, I've not seen it personally in the tank side of things, but all intents and purposes, sounds like they wouldn't even have too much to code. Like, so it's probably already there, or something that they could use at least. And I just think it's nice it would give people another customization option and another option for showing their support.
Yeah.
For the community contributors. So yeah, I don't see any downside of it.
I would absolutely love to see somebody sailing up next to me in their tiny DD, plastered with different community contributor decals. And it wouldn't matter what kind of server you play on. Like, if you play on NA and you support Creator Y over there, Creator Y being Jurek in this case, because he's on NA for some strange reason.
Yeah, even he doesn't know why.
No,
he said so the other day on his stream. He's like, I can't even remember why I'm on here.
And then on the other side of the ship, they have their favorite EU creators, and on the superstructure, they have their favorite Southeast Asia server creators. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully this is something they can bring in, because it would be fun.
It'd be cool,
and it's a different incentive for us CCs to create good content, to reach more people, to get more people to use our code or whatever. I think it could be a cool idea.
Yeah.
And or even if it's not a decal, it could be a flag. It could be actually in the way of a flag that you get access to.
Yeah.
That shows the logo of somebody.
That's what I mean. I think a signal flag, I think that would be really cool. Well, not a signal flag, sorry. The full-size flags that they have there. Because there's a bunch of them, and I really like and I appreciate having the flags as well. It's a nice bit of customization for the ship. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think I wouldn't do it with the size thing, though. I would start with having everybody just even to get it in there.
Yeah.
Then you could see how you develop it from there.
I would so have my oh hi there emote. Could you imagine Grossakur first sailing towards you with a oh hi there face on the front of its superstructure?
It'd be pretty funny.
Hello. It would be terrifying. That's what it would be. But yeah, no, I'm all for it. Let's get on that, Wargaming.
Yeah.
Let's jump straight on that.
And thanks again, DaHogi, for the kind comments and that. We're glad you're enjoying the show.
Excellent comments indeed. we do like feedback and such. So if you have any feedback, hit us up. We also have a question from Mari. Well, actually, we have 3 questions from Mari. And since I will be going to Germany soon, she has asked some Germany-centric questions for both of us. Where did I hide the channel? There's the channel. The first question is simple. What do you associate with Germany? And seeing as you live there, Grumbles, I'm going to ask you first. What do you associate with Germany?
That's a good question. Now, thinking now, after like 13 years or more, I don't know. I don't really think of being somewhere different now, but what do I associate with Germany? Well, for my personal experience, what I enjoy, I like the wide open spaces. There's lots of greenery where I live. That's not really stereotypical German, but put me on the spot now. I suppose schnitzel. I ate schnitzel today, so it's definitely a big win.
Yeah.
Being here. So yeah, like some good foods. There's certainly some very interesting food, but you can say that about anywhere in the world. What else sticks in my mind? I don't know. I suppose. I mean, I am partial to a little bit of autobahn with no speed limits. That's most enjoyable.
I can tell you what I associate with Germany.
Go on then.
Tourists.
Oh, okay. German tourists.
Yeah, German tourists living in northern Norway. I can tell you, I don't know how many times I've been stuck behind a slow driving German caravan or camper van or whatever because they're too busy looking at the fjords and the sights. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. And it is wonderful to have them here. But when I'm driving like I do as a local around here, and suddenly there's this 3-meter wide camper van in front of me that says, Guten Tag, ich bin aus Berlin, or whatever. It's like, it's that season again. Okay, let's just tune our curb our enthusiasm as such. But what I also associate with it is a people that is very similar to my own. The German people are very similar to us Norwegians in its own ways, because we're a bit stiff, but give us a tiny few beers and then hey, suddenly we're limbering up. We're we're becoming a bit more talkative and such. There's a strong heritage culture in Norway. There's also that in Germany. Like, let's not bring it too far, There was one guy who did that. Let's not go there. But there's a very strong culture in the different parts of Germany that is proud of what they make there, what they do there, and I really do enjoy that. So yeah, what I associated with Germany is pretty much almost a brotherly people to my own. It's kind of weird. Same with the Scots. Like, there's a weird triangle there. I don't know why, but Germany, Norway, and Scotland, and there's a weird thing going on there.
All big fans of Scotch, apparently.
Yeah,
amongst
that too.
other things.
That too. The next question from Mari is, what would you like to see/eat in Germany, or what was the coolest thing you have seen/eaten in Germany? Now, I've visited Germany before. I think it was in 2014, 2013. I can't remember. It's a few years ago now. Went with a friend. Spent a few days in Hamburg and then a few days in Berlin. And like we were supposed to go to the the Panzermuseum in Munster. But sadly, since there was a slight change of schedule for us, the day we opted to go to the museum, they were closed. But that is something that I would like to go see. As for eating, I'm not sure. Like, the German kitchen is very similar to the Norwegian one. There's a lot of meat. There's a lot of brown food, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's tasty.
Yeah.
It's very tasty.
A lot of cabbage.
Yeah. A lot of potato.
Mm-hmm.
Very heavy. So I don't know. What do you have anything I should try to go for when I come down?
Well, I'm not a big foodie, so I'm trying to think. Like some of the more peculiar things I've learned, and things like Spätzle.
What is that?
And I'm gonna describe it all wrong now. People give me things and I just eat them. I don't challenge it. It's kind of like I don't even want to say it because I know that Mari and Elsie will listen and they'll be like, fool, he doesn't even know what he's eating. Well, here's spoiler alert. Yes, I don't know what I'm eating. I just trust people. And they go, you're like this. And I go, oh. And sometimes I do, mostly I do, and sometimes I don't. And I go, no, you were wrong.
But savory, sweet?
Like so it's a savory. It's like, I kind of think of it like on some vague parallels with like pasta, but not really. I need to look it up now. Hang on, it's gonna annoy me.
Is this German ramen?
Hang on, I don't know what the English. See, the thing is, I know I've learned a lot of these things when I've been here, but I don't know. Egg noodle.
Yeah, I think Mari's mentioned that before. Yeah. Okay.
Because I just know it by the German name, so there are different, like, here you go, if you get into the technicalities, like blah blah blah, it's a bit different, but it's a bit similar. To me, it's like a German pasta type thing.
Yeah, okay.
That you
so
can have.
It's the egg noodle. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's nice and simple. I like that kind of thing. There's other stuff that I've had, but I can't remember. It's years ago now, up in Berlin, but we went out with some friends of mine that live in Berlin, and they went out into the middle of like valleys nowhere around that region where their parents lived, and so you're getting like grandpa type cooking.
Ooh,
so this is what they've made for like the last 50, 60, 70 years or whatever. And they would make some amazing, they do a lot of, like, it's more meat, but it's like meat but then like all rolled up with other like potato things in the middle, and just imagine instead of having like and then like there's other ones with like dumplings, and then it's like pulled pork type thing, but maybe with beef instead, that sort of thing in the middle of it, and then like a gravy. So it's like a potato dumpling type thing.
A lot of hearty food.
Yeah. It's don't come here if you've got a weak heart.
Oh my god, it speaks to me. It like me. I am a meat baby. And we have that term in Norwegian, like kjøttunge. Like it literally means meat kid or meat baby. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I prefer meat over fish.
Yeah.
And I love fish. Don't get me wrong. I love food. I'm a foodie. I'm not really a foodie, but I eat pretty much anything. So yeah, the German kitchen very much
you're gonna have a good time here. Yeah. You're gonna have a good time.
Last time I was there, me and my friend, we went to a place and we had wild pig.
Yep.
Absolutely fantastic, because it was pork, but it was gamey.
Yeah.
It had that slightly deer-like gamey quality to it, and then that was just absolutely fantastic. You know, you got it as a steak almost, and that was great. It was great. And of course beer. I'm expecting some beer here and there. That I do.
Yep. Plenty of beer.
And since it is Christmas, I know it being down south, it's gonna be Lebkuchen.
Delicious.
Very much looking forward to those. Mari brought some last time. They disappeared in an instant. Now, me being close to being diabetic, I need to be very careful this Christmas, but I will make sure to enjoy some. And what's the coolest thing I've seen? It's actually a Russian sub.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a Russian sub in Hamburg when we visited. It was in the port there, so World War II sub, or right after World War II, but it was moored there, and we went on a tour. That was kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, last question from Ari there is, what is the most peculiar thing you have encountered in Germany?
Most peculiar thing?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's I can't really say it was that peculiar, but while we rented a bike, me and my friend in Berlin, it was kind of fun to see how strict they were with following rules and regulations and recommendations on where to bike and so on. Like, we're not talking that people were biking on the sidewalk and such. No, we're in the street and in correct places in the street, and there were like just very strict and very straightforward places for bikes to be in traffic, and that was kind of peculiar for me as a Norwegian to see, because we've not really done that here until recently, and especially not in cities, because, well, bikes were hated both on road and off road. So no, recently in Oslo they've started making
cycling's like the number
routes.
one sport pastime in this country by quite a long way. Probably the most, I don't know if I would call it peculiar, but like, I suppose unusual for me would be a mix between, in Berlin, being shown like the obviously bits of Berlin Wall is quite fascinating and hits quite hard when you see that reality. And you have friends that like lived on the eastern side and suffered through all of that, and especially the atomic bunkers. That's pretty hard hitting as well, because that is not a comfortable space. That is not so much in a claustrophobic way, but I'm sure it would be eventually. But it's just weird to go down there and see like a lot of the beds and bed frames and stuff that was made up, and try and think about how many people would live in there, and then what would happen to everyone else, and surviving a nuclear or atomic disaster or whatever. That's pretty bizarre. I guess one of, like, anecdotally thinking of slightly peculiar or unusual circumstance was friends of mine that lived not far from a nuclear power station, and they were telling me about the different rules and regulations and warning systems and alarms and what people would have in their houses for in the case of a radioactive leak and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, right. And so where do you keep all of your stuff? And like, oh, no, we're inside the belt. It wouldn't matter. We don't have to have any of that stuff here, because if there's a leak, we're gone. And I'm like,
that's reassuring.
So let me just finish my tea and be on my way.
Would you look at the time? Huh?
Yeah.
I need to go wash my car.
But it's very funny though, because like really, really like super smart physics doctor, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just like this very blasé, like, no, we wouldn't survive that. Like, okay. And this is where you set up your home with your family. It's like, and our parents live across the road, so
what can I say except you're fucked now?
Yeah, exactly. But they're like, oh no, it's never gonna happen, blah blah. So like, okay. So maybe that anecdotally, maybe that counts as a slightly peculiar
like what
attitude.
you mentioned that, and I do Like one thing that I remember from Hamburg is of course Reeperbahn, which is the red light district in Hamburg,
Mm-hmm.
where you walk around and then there's this McDonald's on the first floor, but it's a brothel on the second floor. That's kind of peculiar. It's not necessarily a German thing. That's more of a Hamburg thing. But that was really weird. But also being in Berlin and seeing these historic buildings where the shadow of these old uh
The Soviet era side, yeah.
yeah, Soviet era side, but also on some of the old Nazi party buildings.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Where you still see where this huge sign would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Like and you still see the relief of what would this be like. It would have been the Reichsadler,
Mm-hmm.
the eagle up there, and it's like that was kind of special. That was very weird, but also an eye opener to how straightforward they are about the history and kind of going, yeah, things were fucked up. We embrace that, and we are doing this to avoid that ever happening again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a sobering thought,
Mm-hmm.
very sobering thought, and also reassuring in its own way, which it's kind of why it ended up being peculiar, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it's a wonderful country that I'm looking forward to spending more time in.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of things that we like spending more time with,
Yeah.
something to smile about.
I like smiling.
I like smiling too. And despite it says that you forgot your smile, you do have something to smile about.
I do. I actually had like a bunch of them, but I had one that happened early in the month, so just to let people know what we're on about. And I was like, that's perfect. I've already got my one for this month because there's, it just fit the tea perfectly. Of course, I scribbled it somewhere, but I don't know where, and I can't remember what it was because I've got not a very good memory. So, but luckily, while we were talking earlier and during the podcast, I remembered another one that really made me chuckle.
Yeah.
So my something to smile about. It's only one, but it's kind of in two parts, right? So, as you know, listeners and my dear friend Tiger, our other dear friend, one of our other dear friends, Grumpy, is fighting cancer right now, having a bit of a hard time of it. And one of the things that the Grumpy fam decided to do was get a dog.
Yes.
Australian Labradoodle, I think it is. I think that's a dog. It could be a lizard, but it's a dog, I think. Anyway, they were getting this thing, and Grumpy's son had already come up with a name for this. And it was something like Rufus Doofus Woof Woof or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. So that could already have been something to smile about because they now have said dog. But let's not jump to the end of the story. Scroll back a few days in between, and I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I might have mentioned it, that I quite like this game. And we were getting to the end of the story. We went into the epilogue afterwards. So minor spoiler alert. This is not a big spoiler. I won't talk about too many other names. But in the epilogue, one of the antagonists, or the main antagonist that you play in the epilogue after the main story is all said and done, gets reunited with his partner and their son, and the son has a dog, and the dog in that story is called Rufus. And it hit me real hard because it was like, wait, what? It hit me real hard, and I couldn't believe it. And it's like, yeah, Rufus. So we had Rufus the dog in the game, and I think all the sequence of events was Grumpy talked about that they're going to get the dog, and then I played the game and we got Rufus in the game, and then he got the dog and sent pictures of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my god, like just perfect sequence of events. So that's my something to smile about for this month. It's like couldn't have kind of gone better together. Obviously horrible circumstances, but you got to fight it and have hope and get through it, you know.
Yeah, you gotta keep looking for those things to smile about.
Exactly.
Which is what I'm smiling about. Like you said, you've had several moments of things to smile about. And something that I've noticed through us doing this is that I've more actively started to be aware of the moments where I genuinely smile of something. It's not just a fleeting moment. It's not just something that disappears. It's something that, because of these moments that we keep bringing up and talk about, I go, this would be nice to share with somebody. And then I share it. I actively go out and I share my moment of smiling with somebody else. Be that a TikTok, be that a meme, be that a thought I had, a joke that popped up, or whatever. But something that made me smile has become such a staple for me to look for, to be aware of. And when I kind of realized that, it made me smile. So that was a very nice kind of realization of that. Yeah, it's already had its purpose. This little thing we do here, it's had its purpose, and it's just gonna keep on growing. And
Excellent.
and for December, because we have one more episode left this year. I would encourage all of our viewers, listeners, community members to write down the things that make you smile. You don't necessarily have to share them with us, but it would be really nice to round off the year with things that made you smile. And whereas it would be even more fun to have people go, "Oh, you guys make me smile." Yeah, we know. It's what we do. It's why we're here. You know, not to pat ourselves too much on the back, but it's literally why we keep on going. We know that we make people smile, and that's what we aim for. But I want to hear something else. I want to hear other things that made you smile. You know, that little moment when moose trampled through your garden and ate all your rhododendrons or whatever. But because he ate all the rhododendrons, a different plant popped up and is now able to flourish and be alive. You know, whatever. Like, this is my ADHD brain now going off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say we're well off now.
Yeah, but
I can see the headlines now, though. You know, rogue moose improves local gardens.
So yes, I implore you, dear community members, think and write down the moments that make you smile. And please do share them with us. And I think that's where we're going to leave this episode, Mr. Grumbles.
Yep, sounds like a really nice, happy, smiling way to leave.
So without further ado, we're going to find ourselves in the next exit to port in about a month. Maybe a bit before. Who knows? We'll see. But it's going to be goodbye from me and goodbye from Grumbles.
Goodbye and good vibes, everyone.